Hamas' use of human shields is resulting in civilian casualties in Gaza, emphasized Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Fluss, coinciding with the discovery of weapons and equipment belonging to the terrorist group in a Gaza hospital. Sancho reports.
Until now, Israel has been attacked.
Israeli Ambassador Fluss stressed that Israel's incursion into Gaza is a response to continued attacks by Hamas and Hezbollah on the country's civilian population. He clarified that Hamas is using Palestinians as human shields, and this is why civilians currently residing in schools and hospitals are being dragged into war because Hamas operatives are hiding in such places. According to Fluss, based on international law, locations housing terrorists become legitimate targets during war.
The issue is number one. Israel was attacked by a terror organization on October 7. Since then, until now, Israel has been attacked by the terrorist organization Hamas and Hezbollah from the north, more than 10,000 rockets, which have been launched against Israeli civilians, Israeli population, civilians. This is against the international law. Now, so Israel is defending itself, and Israel has a right and the responsibility to protect its civilians. Number two, Hamas is using human shield in Gaza. We see Hamas infrastructure, not only in residential buildings, not only in schools, not only in mosques, but also in hospitals. The moment that a civilian infrastructure, institute, building is used for terror means, for military means, it becomes a legitimate target according to international law. That's a known fact.
Fluss highlighted that Israeli Defense Forces never target civilians, citing the IDF's evacuation of civilians residing in targeted areas as evidence. He said that Hamas uses civilians as protection to sustain its attacks, as recently uncovered by Israeli troops at Al-Shifa Hospital, including weapons used by Hamas.
We are not targeting civilians. IDF in its operation is targeting Hamas. When we talk about proportionality is concerning the military operation, which is against a specific threat, and what are the outcomes. We have called civilians to evacuate northern Gaza, to move to South Gaza, not in order to mass move them, or it is a temporary way in order to prevent and to mitigate civilian casualties. We have seen just yesterday and 2 days ago, in the hospital and under the hospital, Shifa in Gaza, weapons, command and control centers, operatives. In one of the hospitals, we have seen a room where there is evidence that the hostages were held there, including a bottle for a baby and clothes for women, and et cetera, et cetera. So we have all the evidence there that Hamas is using human shields. It's using their own citizens, their own civilians, to protect themselves in order for them to continue to conduct terror attacks against Israeli civilians.
Ambassador Fluss asserted that Israel does not engage in collective punishment of Palestinians following the deaths of thousands of civilians in Gaza. He emphasized that Israel's actions are focused solely on the terrorist group that unfortunately governs Gaza and acts as its government. According to Fluss, Israel's attacks on Gaza are necessary to prevent further civilian casualties, requiring an assertive approach to weaken Hamas forces.
We as a government, and this is global responsibility of governments, and you see it in all, when we talk about fighting against terror, our responsibility is to mitigate terror organizations from being able to attack us again. Now we have to remember, October 7, the numbers and the atrocities that we have seen, we have never seen before. But it's not the first time that the Hamas is attacking us from Gaza. It's not the first time. We have to mitigate this threat. And when you talk about proportionality is regarding the threat that we have and how do we respond to military threats. The military threat now is Hamas. Hamas is operating from within a building. I have to do the best in order to mitigate those Hamas terrorists with avoiding civilian casualties. And how do we do it? We inform the civilians who are going to attack, we inform them exactly on the exact location. Before going into the hospitals, we have worked with the management of the hospital in order to evacuate as many people as possible, as long as they were cooperating. In many cases, they did not want to cooperate because Hamas did not allow them to let those civilians go. Hamas held civilian hostages by force. So we have to understand what we are talking about. Of course, it is important to say, my heart is also with the Palestinian people, the innocent Palestinian people, who have unfortunately elected a Hamas government in 2007. So they've elected to have a terrorist organization as their government. So Hamas is controlling Gaza and is using the entirety of Gaza as their base for the operations against Israel.
Fluss pointed out that as of now, Israel is still not receiving recognition from neighboring countries, and this exposes the Jewish state to ongoing threats.
We are continuously under attack because Israel is still a country which is not recognized and not respected by many, but quite a few of our neighbors. If it is Hamas in Gaza, if it is Hezbollah in Lebanon, it is the Houthis in Yemen, and if it is Iran, who is actually supporting and supplying the weapons to all these organizations. So we are a country which is under threat since 1948, and we have to protect ourselves.
Currently, over 12,000 people have lost their lives in the conflict between Israel and terrorist group Hamas. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SM9 News.